The small moon hung quietly in space, looking dead and empty to anyone who might pass by. This was exactly what the humans wanted. Inside this hollow moon, far from watching eyes, they built their greatest weapon. Chief Engineer Todd wiped sweat from his forehead as he checked the readouts on his tablet. He had worked on the Ghost ship for 12 years, giving up a normal life for this secret project. Now, they were almost done. "How are the cloaking systems looking?" Commander Kim asked, walking up behind him. Todd nodded at the massive ship before them. It was huge, nearly a kilometer long, yet would soon become completely invisible to all known types of scanning. Final tests show we're at 99.8% undetectable. No ship has ever come close to this, Ta said. Commander Kim smiled slightly. It was the first time he had smiled in months. The Keldor Empire had taken 3 more human colonies last week. Billions of humans now lived under their cruel rule, and millions more had died fighting. "Will that be enough?" Kim asked. "It has to be," Tay replied. "The Keldors have better scanning tech than any species we've met, but they can't find what isn't there. Our ship bends light, gravity, heat, radiation, everything around itself. It's like a hole in space." They watched as work teams swarmed over the ship. The Ghost. Its real name was HFSS Vengeance, but everyone called it Ghost. Looked like no other warship ever built. Its black hull absorbed light. Its shape had no sharp edges that radar could detect. It had no visible engines, no visible weapons. Lieutenant June approached, saluting Kim. June was young, barely 30, but had already lost his home planet to the Keldors. "Commander, the weapons team is ready to report," Jun said. Kim nodded, and they walked toward a sealed section of the base where Dr. Song waited. Song was small in size, but had the sharpest mind Kim had ever known. Her family had died when the Keldors attacked New Seoul. Since then, she had focused all her brilliant thoughts on creating weapons that could stop them. "Dr. Song," Kim greeted her. "Tell me we have something that can hurt them." Song's eyes were tired but determined. "We have something that can do more than hurt them. We can make them disappear." She touched a screen, showing images of a test on a distant asteroid. In the video, the asteroid simply fell apart, breaking down into dust. "My weapon doesn't just destroy, it takes things apart at the molecular level," Song explained in simple terms. "It creates a point where physics itself breaks down for a short time. Anything caught in that point comes apart completely." "And this works on ships?" "On bases?" Kim asked. "On anything," Song said. "We've never tested it at full power. We can't. It would draw too much attention." Kim looked at the test results again. "The Keldors have shields that can stop our strongest weapons. Can they stop this?" Song shook her head. "This doesn't hit shields. It changes the space where the shields exist. Nothing can stop it because it's not really a weapon in the normal sense. It's a change in reality." As they talked, an alarm sounded. All 3 hurried to the command center where a message was coming in from Alliance headquarters. The news was bad. Very bad. The Keldor fleet had pushed deeper into human space, taking 3 more systems. The 7th human fleet had been destroyed trying to stop them. Billions more humans were now under Keldor control. "We need to move up our timeline," Kim said after reading the report. "How soon can Ghost be ready?" Ta looked shocked. "We planned for 3 more weeks of testing." "We don't have 3 weeks," Kim said firmly. "The Keldors are moving faster than we thought." "How soon?" Ta looked at the ship, thinking hard. 3 days. Minimum. We can load the basic systems and finish the final work during the mission." "Do it," Kim ordered. "And we need a crew." "The Ghost was designed for a crew of 200, Ta pointed out. "We don't have that many people cleared for this mission." "Then we go with what we have," Kim decided. "Pull anyone with level 10 clearance. We need the best pilots, the best weapons officers, the best engineers." Within hours, the base was in full emergency mode. Engineers worked around the clock, installing final systems. Supplies were loaded. The 50 crew members, all that could be found with proper clearance, were briefed on their mission. Captain G, chosen to command the Ghost, reviewed the mission plans with Kim. G was tall and calm, known for making good decisions under pressure. He had fought the Keldors for 15 years and knew their tactics better than anyone. A direct strike at their core systems, G said, looking at the plan. It's bold. Bold is all we have left, Kim replied. Conventional war isn't working. We've lost half our territory in 5 years. The Ghost is our last hope. Jay nodded. I understand the mission. We hit their military targets only, no civilian populations. We show them they can be hurt, that they're not invincible. Exactly, Kim said. Make them feel what we felt, the helplessness, the fear. Force them to pull back and defend their own worlds instead of taking ours. The next 3 days passed in a blur of activity. Systems were rushed to completion. Weapons were loaded. The crew trained as best they could on systems they barely understood. On the final day, Engineer Tay and Dr. Song worked frantically to integrate the weapons with the cloaking system. This is the hardest part, Tai explained to Kim. When we fire the main weapon, it creates a massive energy signature. We have to mask that somehow, or they'll find us after the first shot. Can you do it? Kim asked. Tai and Song looked at each other. We think so, Song said. We've created a system that should release false energy signatures in multiple locations when we fire. They'll detect something, but it will seem to come from everywhere and nowhere. As the launch hour approached, the crew boarded the Ghost. Captain G took his place on the bridge, reviewing the ship's systems one last time with his officers. Navigator Hyun checked their planned route through Keldor space. Weapons Officer Hyun ran final checks on Song's terrible new weapon. Communications Officer Min prepared the secured channels they would use to report back to Alliance headquarters. Commander Kim stood in the launch bay with Engineer Tai and Dr. Song as the Ghost prepared to leave. This has to work, Kim said quietly. Humanity has no other options left. Ta nodded. If anyone can make it work, it's this crew. And this ship, it's the best work we've ever done. The massive bay doors opened slowly, revealing the stars beyond. The Ghost moved forward silently, its engines making no visible thrust, its hull absorbing all light that touched it. As it cleared the moon, Captain Jig gave the order they had all been waiting for. Engage cloaking systems. On the screens in the launch bay, Kim, Tai, and Song watched as the Ghost simply disappeared. One moment it was there, a massive warship against the stars. The next moment, nothing. Their sensors showed nothing. Their scanners detected nothing. The most powerful warship humans had ever built had vanished completely. May the stars guide them, Ta said quietly. Kim nodded, his eyes fixed on the empty space where he knew the Ghost still was. And may the Keldors never see them coming. Inside the invisible ship, Captain J looked at his crew. Set course for Keldor space, he ordered. Our mission begins now. The ship that no one could see began its journey into the heart of the enemy empire, carrying the hopes of humanity with it. For 3 weeks, the Ghost traveled through enemy space. No one saw it. No one detected it. Captain Jai stood on the bridge, watching the stars through the main view screen. His ship moved like a shadow among the Keldor fleets. Status report, G said quietly. Lieutenant Jun checked his screen. All systems normal, Captain. Cloaking is at 100% efficiency. We've passed 6 Keldor patrol ships in the last hour. None showed any sign of detecting us. G nodded, feeling both pride and fear. They were deep in enemy territory now. If anything went wrong, they would be alone with no hope of rescue. Navigation, he called to Ensign Yun. How long until we reach the Ursa system? Yun looked up from her controls. 2 days at current speed, Captain. Jai had chosen the Ursa system for their first strike. It held the largest Keldor shipyard, where they built the massive warships used to attack human worlds. The shipyard orbited a giant gas planet, its ring of construction docks glowing with activity. "Weapons status?" Ji asked. Officer Hyun looked up from her station. "Dr. Song's system is at full charge. We've run all possible simulations. It should work as designed." "Should?" Ji raised an eyebrow. "It's never been fired at full power, Captain," Hyun reminded him. "The simulations look perfect, but this weapon changes the basic rules of physics. That's not something we can predict with complete certainty." Ji understood the risk. They carried a weapon that no one had ever used before. It might work perfectly. It might not work at all. It might do something completely unexpected. "Communications, any new intelligence from Alliance HQ?" Ji asked. Officer Min shook his head. "Last transmission received 12 hours ago. The Keldor forces have taken System 87. The civilian evacuation was only partly successful. The bridge fell silent. System 87 held 4 populated planets with nearly 3 billion human inhabitants. Partly successful meant that millions had died or been captured. All the more reason to succeed," Ji said firmly. "We continue as planned." The Ghost moved quietly onward, its passage marked by nothing. Inside, the crew worked in shifts, monitoring systems, gathering intelligence, and preparing for their first attack. 2 days later, the Ghost reached the Ursa system. From their hidden position, they could see the massive Keldor shipyard. It stretched for kilometers, a vast complex of docks, assembly areas, and support stations. 30 large warships were under construction. Smaller vessels moved between the docks like busy insects. "Magnify Sector 4, Jai ordered. The screen zoomed in on one section of the shipyard. There, nearly complete, sat 5 Keldor dreadnoughts, the largest class of warship in their fleet. Each one could destroy an entire human planet. Each one would soon join the war against humanity. "Those are our primary targets," Ji said. "Tactical, give me optimal firing position." Commander Du, Ji's first officer, moved to his side. "Captain, permission to speak freely?" Jay nodded. "There are over 20,000 Keldor workers on that shipyard," Du said quietly. "Military personnel, yes, but still, that's more lives than any human has ever taken in a single action." Jai looked at the shipyard again. He had considered this moral question many times during their journey. "I understand your concern," Ji said, "but each of those dreadnoughts will kill millions of humans once deployed. The math is simple but terrible. 20,000 now, or millions later." Du nodded. "I just wanted to be sure we fought it through." "We have," Jai assured him. "This is war, but we're not becoming like them. We target military assets only. We make this as quick and clean as possible." Ji turned to the crew. "Take us in. Minimum safe distance for weapons deployment." The Ghost moved silently toward the shipyard, passing Keldor patrol ships that never sensed its presence. It positioned itself 5,000 kilometers from the main construction docks, close enough for a perfect shot, far enough to avoid any backwash from the weapon's effect. "Weapons ready," Hyun reported, her voice tight with tension. Jai looked at his crew. These 50 people carried the fate of humanity with them. What they did today would change the course of the war, one way or another. "Target locked on primary construction dock," Hyun said. "Secondary targeting on backup power systems and command centers." Ji took a deep breath. "Fire." Hyun pressed her control panel. 1 month passed. The Ghost moved through Keldor space like a deadly shadow. 7 major military bases had been destroyed. 4 fleet staging areas had vanished. 3 weapons research centers were now just dust floating in space. The Keldor Empire was in chaos. On the bridge of the Ghost, Captain Jay studied the latest intelligence reports. Officer Min had intercepted thousands of Keldor communications. The picture they painted was clear. The mighty empire was scared. "They've pulled back from 3 human systems," Min reported. "Their border fleets are returning to defend core worlds." Jay nodded. feeling the first real hope he had felt in years. And their theories about what's happening. Min displayed several translated messages on the main screen. Most military leaders believe it's a new weapon being fired from long range. Some think it's a series of sabotage operations. A few high-ranking officials are suggesting it might be natural space phenomena. No one has guessed the truth, that an invisible ship is moving through their territory. Intelligence Officer Han added, "They've increased patrols by 300%. Ships are flying in tight formations. They're using every detection method they have. But they're looking for something they can see." G turned to Engineer Park, who had taken over system maintenance after they left Earth. "How are our cloaking systems holding up?" Park looked tired but satisfied. "Better than expected. The more they scan, the more data we get on their methods. We've actually improved our cloaking by studying their search patterns." "And the weapon?" G asked. Weapons Officer Hyun checked her readings. "Dr. Song's design is performing perfectly. Each use teaches us more about controlling the effect. We can now target more precisely, limiting the spread to exactly what we want to destroy." Jay nodded, pleased with the reports. They had struck 12 targets in the past month, and each attack had been more precise than the last. They had destroyed military targets while minimizing damage to surrounding areas. "Our next target is more ambitious," Jai announced, bringing up an image on the main screen. The Central Command Station. The crew stared at the massive structure floating in space. The Kelder Central Command was the heart of their military operations, a huge space station where their war council planned all attacks against human worlds. It was surrounded by a defensive fleet of over 200 warships. "That's the most heavily guarded location in their empire," Commander Du said. "Yes," Jai agreed. "And that's why we must destroy it. Their entire command structure is there. Without it, their fleets won't know where to go or what to attack." The crew studied the tactical display. Getting close to the station would be difficult, even for an invisible ship. The defensive screen was tight, with ships positioned to detect anything that might pass between them. "We'll need to go slowly," Jai decided. "Take 3 days to work our way through their defenses. Move only when ships shift position. Be patient." The plan was set. The Ghost would approach the Central Command with extreme caution, position itself for a perfect shot, and destroy the brain of the Kelder military machine. 3 days later, the Ghost hung silently in space, less than 5 kilometers from the Central Command Station. They had passed through the defensive screen by moving incredibly slowly, timing their movements to coincide with the regular patrol shifts of the Kelder ships. In position, Navigator Eon reported quietly, as if afraid the Kelders might hear her voice through the vacuum of space. Jai looked at the massive station on their view screen. From this close, they could see individual windows, shuttle bays, and defense turrets. Inside that station, Kelder commanders were planning the destruction of more human worlds. "Weapons ready," Hyun reported. Jai hesitated. He thought of all the humans who had died in this war. He thought of the colonies lost, the families torn apart. This single strike might change everything. "Captain," Commander Du said quietly, "are we becoming what we're fighting against?" Jai looked at his first officer. It was a fair question. The Ghost had brought destruction on a scale never seen before. "We're not targeting civilian populations," Jai replied. "Only military assets. Once their capability to wage war is eliminated, we'll offer terms. This isn't about revenge. It's about ending the war." Du nodded, accepting the answer. "Prepare to fire," Jai ordered. Suddenly, alarms blared across the bridge. "Energy spike," Park called out. One of their patrol ships just activated a new type of scanner. "Are we detected?" G asked sharply. Park studied his readings intently. "I don't think so. No, their ship is continuing its patrol route. But that was close. This new scanner operates on principles we haven't seen before." G made a quick decision. "We can't risk discovery. Fire now." Hyun activated Dr. Song's weapon. The familiar point of strange darkness appeared near the center of the command station. It spread quickly, consuming the massive structure. Within seconds, the brain of the Keldor military machine simply dissolved into molecules. The effect of the station's destruction was immediate and dramatic. The surrounding ships fell into confusion. Some fired weapons randomly into space. Others moved in erratic patterns, clearly receiving conflicting orders. "Target destroyed," Hyun reported. "Clean hit. Get us out of here," Jite ordered. "Maximum safe speed." The Ghost moved away from the chaos, passing easily through the now disorganized defensive screen. The Keldor ships, without central command, had no idea how to respond to the attack. Back at the small moon base, Commander Kim received the Ghost's encrypted report with growing excitement. He called an emergency meeting with the Alliance military leadership. "The Ghost has exceeded all expectations," Kim told the assembled generals and admirals. 12 major Keldor military targets destroyed, 0 civilian casualties, and now their central command is gone. Admiral Lee, the head of the Alliance fleet, looked impressed. "The effects are already visible. Keldor forces are pulling back from the front lines. They've abandoned 3 recently conquered systems." "It's more than that," General Bai added. "We're getting reports of unrest within the Empire. Their military has never failed before. Their people don't know how to process these defeats." Kim nodded. "This is our chance. While they're confused and scared, we should offer peace terms." "Peace?" Admiral Lee looked surprised. "We have them on the run. We could push them back further, reclaim more of our territory." "At what cost?" Kim asked. "More lives lost on both sides. The Ghost has given us leverage. We should use it to end this war, not extend it." After hours of debate, the Alliance leadership agreed. They would send a message to the Keldor High Command, offering to negotiate peace terms. On the Ghost, now safely away from the destroyed command station, Captain G received new orders from Alliance headquarters. "We're offering peace," Officer Min asked after reading the message. "Yes," J confirmed. "But we have one more target before any peace talks begin. We need to show them that nowhere in their empire is safe." He pointed to a new location on the tactical map, the Keldor homeworld. "Not the civilian cities," J clarified. "Just their orbital defense systems and military academies. We take away their ability to restart this war in the future." The crew understood. This final mission would be the most dangerous yet, but also the most important. They would strike at the heart of the Keldor Empire, not to destroy it, but to convince it that peace was the only option. "Set course for the Keldor homeworld," Jai ordered. "This ends where it began, at the source of their power." The Ghost slipped once more into faster-than-light travel, invisible and unstoppable, carrying with it humanity's best hope for lasting peace. The Keldor homeworld hung in space like a jewel. From orbit, it looked peaceful: blue oceans, green landmasses, white clouds. It was hard to believe that the race that had caused so much suffering had come from such a beautiful planet. Captain Jai stood on the bridge of the Ghost, looking down at the world that had launched 1,000 warships against humanity. Around the planet, a defensive ring of military stations and warships formed the strongest protection grid in the known galaxy. "Status report," Jai ordered. "We've been in orbit for 6 hours," Navigator Yun reported. "No signs of detection. Their new scanning systems are active, but they still can't see us." Ji nodded. "Intelligence, what's happening on the surface?" Officer Min looked up from his station. "Panic, Captain. After we destroyed their central command, their military leadership fell into chaos. Different factions are giving different orders. Their emperor has called an emergency meeting of all high commanders." "Where?" Ji asked. "Their main military academy," Min replied, highlighting a large complex on the planet's surface. "It's the most secure building on the planet." Jai studied the location. The academy was isolated from civilian areas, a perfect target. "And their orbital defenses?" Ji asked. Tactical Officer Park displayed the defense grid on the main screen. 32 battle stations positioned around the planet. Each one carries enough firepower to destroy a small fleet, plus their normal home fleet. 100 warships currently in orbit. If any of those remain operational, they could still threaten human worlds in the future, G said. Commander Du stepped forward. Captain, a suggestion. We don't need to destroy them all. If we take out their key command centers and their main weapons platforms, it will cripple their ability to wage war for years. That should be enough time for peace talks to work. G considered this. Agreed. We don't need to destroy everything, just enough to show them they're vulnerable. He turned to the crew. We'll target the main military academy during their leadership meeting, plus their 4 primary orbital defense stations. That should be enough to convince them that peace is their only option. The crew prepared for the final mission. For most of them, this would be the last combat action of a war that had consumed their lives for years. They worked with quiet efficiency, checking systems, planning target sequences. Weapons ready, Officer Yun reported. Take us to the first target, Jai ordered. Orbital Defense Station Alpha. The Ghost moved silently toward the massive space station. Shaped like a star, the station's 5 arms each held planet-killer weapons that could destroy a world from orbit. No human fleet had ever gotten close to one of these stations and survived. Yet the Ghost slipped within 2 kilometers without triggering a single alarm. In position, Yun reported. Fire, Jai ordered. Dr. Song's weapon activated. The strange darkness appeared at the center of the station and spread quickly. The entire structure, built over decades and thought to be indestructible, simply came apart at the molecular level. Target destroyed, Hyun reported. No alert signals detected from other stations. Next target, Jai ordered. One by one, the Ghost moved to the 4 primary defense stations and erased them from existence. Each destruction was clean, precise, and, most importantly, undetected by the remaining Keldor forces. It was as if the stations simply vanished for no reason. The Keldor response grew more frantic with each disappearance. Ships moved in confused patterns. Emergency signals flashed across communication channels, but no one could find an enemy to fight. Final target, Jay announced. The Military Academy. The Ghost descended into the planet's atmosphere, still invisible to all detection systems. It positioned itself high above the Academy complex where, according to their intelligence, all the remaining Keldor military leaders were gathered to plan their response to the mysterious attacks. This is different from our other targets, Jit told the crew. This is on their homeworld. We must be absolutely precise. The weapon must affect only the Academy grounds, nothing beyond. Hyun adjusted her targeting controls. Configured for minimum spread, maximum intensity. The effect will be contained to the Academy grounds only. Ji took a deep breath. This final strike would likely end the war. Fire. The weapon activated. From their position high in the atmosphere, they could see the effect spreading across the Academy grounds. Buildings, training fields, weapon emplacements, all dissolved into their component particles. The entire complex, the heart of Keldor military power, was gone in less than a minute. Target destroyed, Hyun reported. Clean effect boundary. No spread to surrounding areas. Ji nodded. Take us back to orbit. Prepare to leave the system. As the Ghost rose from the atmosphere, Communications Officer Min suddenly called out, Captain, I'm picking up a planet-wide broadcast. Put it on screen, Jai ordered. The main view screen showed the face of the Keldor Emperor, a tall, strong-looking alien with the distinctive ridged forehead of his species. He looked shaken, his normal confidence gone. People of the Keldor Empire, the Emperor began. An invisible enemy strikes at the heart of our strength. For the first time in our 1,000-year history, we face a force we cannot see, cannot fight, and cannot understand. The Emperor paused, visibly struggling with what he had to say next. Today, I have sent emissaries to the Human Alliance offering immediate and unconditional withdrawal from all occupied territories and a formal request for peace negotiations. Our military forces will stand down. Our warships will return to our space. The bridge of the Ghost fell silent as they listened to the Emperor's next words. The age of Keldor expansion has ended. We must look to our own survival now, against enemies that can strike anywhere without warning. The broadcast ended. For a long moment, no one on the bridge spoke. Then cheers erupted from every corner. Officers who had maintained perfect discipline for months hugged each other. Some wept openly. "We did it," Commander Du said quietly to Jia. "We actually ended the war." Ji nodded, feeling a complex mix of emotions: relief, pride, and a strange sadness that the mission was over. Set course for Alliance headquarters, he ordered once the celebration quieted. "Our mission is complete." 2 weeks later, the Ghost returned to human space. As they approached the small moon base where their journey had begun, they received a hero's welcome. Every ship in the Alliance fleet flashed lights in greeting, though none could actually see the Ghost. In a private ceremony deep inside the moon base, the crew was honored by the Alliance leadership. The 50 men and women who had changed the course of the war stood at attention as Admiral Lee presented them with the highest military honors. "What you have accomplished will never be known to the public," Admiral Lee told them. "Your ship, your weapon, your mission, all will remain classified at the highest level. But know this: you have saved billions of lives. The Keldor Empire has withdrawn from all human territories. Refugees are returning to their homes. The war is over." Commander Kim approached Captain Ji after the ceremony. "What happens to the Ghost now?" Ji asked. Kim smiled slightly. "She'll be upgraded, maintained, and kept ready. The universe now knows that humanity possesses a power that cannot be detected or defended against. No empire will risk our wrath again." Engineer Todd joined them, looking proud of his creation. "The technical details of Ghost will never be shared," he said firmly. "Some weapons are too terrible to proliferate. But her legend will spread across the galaxy as a warning." "And what about us?" Ji asked, looking at his crew. These people had become his family during their mission. "You'll be reassigned to sensitive positions throughout the fleet," Kim explained. "Your skills and experience are too valuable to waste. And someday, if needed, you might be called to serve on Ghost again." 1 year later, the peace treaty with the Keldor Empire was formally signed. Human colonies were rebuilding. The survivors of the war were finding new hope. And deep inside the hollow moon, the Ghost waited silently. The warship no one noticed had crushed an empire. Now it guarded the peace it had created. The most powerful weapon humanity had ever built remained invisible, unseen, a shadow protecting the light of human civilization. In time, stories spread across the galaxy, whispered legends about a ship that could not be seen, a weapon that could not be stopped. These stories reached other species, other empires that might have considered humanity an easy target. None dared test whether the legends were true. The Ghost had taught the galaxy a lesson. Sometimes the most dangerous enemy is the one you never see coming.